Testing 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Wednesday, which means on most Wednesdays, or at least I try on most Wednesdays, to do a live stream. So we're doing episode 14 of the video production helpline. Excuse me, a little frog in the throat there. Several people already in the chat. Thank you everyone for joining me. We've got Wooter, Newer 23, Ansus, Laser Eyes 24, Armando, Noah, Kelton, Alex Miner, you slick fellow, Mr. Camera Junkie, several of the regulars. We've got Charlie, Zizo, and others. Oh, can't forget Sir Roger Deakins. So good to see you all here. Couple things before we dive into questions. So if you have a question, definitely get it ready. That's what we do most of these shows, at least in this series of Production Helpline. I'd like to do some guests in the future. But if you have a question, we're going to try to get through as many as we can today. But a couple things I want to nail down before that. Right after this stream, I'm going to be heading over to this stream over at the C47. So if you want to just hang out, talk about gear, get super nerdy, all up on Jem Schofield's channel, we're going to head over there. So I'm going to drop a link to that in the chat right now, as well as at the end of the show. So if you want to queue it up, you can do so. Sorry, my keyboard is blocked with something we're going to talk about here in a second. So boom, there is the link. Thing number 2 is actually right here on the table. Some of you know what this is. Some of you do not. And maybe I should preface this a little bit. If you've been following the channel, you may have seen, what was it, last year? Was it 2020? Maybe it was. I did a project where I took a Pelican case and I loaded it up with an Atem Mini, which is this guy, for those who don't know and have been living under a rock, as well as a ton of other gear. I actually went ahead and started developing a product to be able to sell that idea, and it actually worked out really well, with one exception. Chip shortage and shipping is just nuts right now, as most of you know. So that project, unfortunately, is not going to be long-term. At least I don't have plans at this time. But I'm going to be selling 20 cases that are ready to go. You just drop your Atem Mini in and you're done. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to show those to you. If you want to learn more about the case, how to get it, I'm going to be sending an email out and 20 people get a shot at it. After that, it's goodbye to that project, at least in this state. So maybe some more news in the future when it comes to DIY projects, 3D printed gear and stuff. So stay tuned for that. But I wanted to show this to you before they go out. And if you want to subscribe to that email list, if you go to my website, DSLRvideoshooter.com, on the top right, you'll see a little Atem Mini tab. You click on that, you enter your email, and I'll be sending out an email a couple days before the cases get shipped. But I wanted to show them off because I'm really proud of them. But I just, they're not going to be something that's going to be, continually for sale. So I'm going to show it to you. We've got a cover, a port cover on the back, which is new to this design. So it slides off, revealing all of the ports. I'll set that aside. I'll go ahead and open this up. The same case, so it's a really small, I should have a slightly wider lens, but I don't. The 1170 case. I'll open it up here. And there is the inside. I'll move this little baggie that has the clamps. We will drop in an Atem Mini. The tolerances on this is insane. So we worked really hard to have a nice tight fit for your Atem Mini. Single power switch that turns the whole thing on. We've got fans and cooling, so air is pulled in, fed through your Atem Mini, and then pulled back out with a fan. There's filters here. The switch is recessed. I don't know if you can really see that. So you can't accidentally turn the thing off. And then on the lid, there's a protector on this screen right now so it doesn't get dirty. But we have a over 10-inch HD display. You've got your controls here so you can calibrate the display, make some changes there. And then if I go ahead and close this guy, the only hole in this whole thing, well, there's also, we've got cold shoes on either side so you can mount additional gear. On the back, let me flip it around. You've got your Atem ports all through here, as well as a bunch of expansion. So we've got HDMI out, we've got power in, as well as 12 volts and 5 volts out, a headphone jack, and then a place for you to plug in your Atem's HDMI out, as well as power. So you have access to all your ports here. And then when you're traveling with this thing, you can put the port cover on the back, which just slides on, as I showed you earlier. So yeah, really proud of this. Shout out to my employee who's been putting a lot of this together. So we've got a spot here where you can put clamps down to hold this bad boy in place so that it's nice and secure when traveling. All right, last thing I want to show you before we move on. I promise we're almost done. Let me pull this Atem out. Let me put this baggie back in because that needs to go with it. Let me close this up and I'll show you the special edition first model. So whoever orders first gets the shot at this guy, which is a Stormtrooper edition. So let me take the cap off, or the report cover. So this one is the only one that's going to be sold in white and black, which I think looks absolutely amazing. So there it is. They'll have the clamps on either side. Same exact thing as before. It's just now you have this gorgeous white. I'll show you the display. There it is. So yeah, really learned so much through this. And if you're interested in stuff like this and future gear, I really do want to do something long-term when it comes to gear like this. Because I could sell mugs, water bottles, t-shirts and things, but I've always loved the idea of functional merch. So at any rate, sorry about those loud clicks, guys. That is some things that'll be coming in the future, and look forward to exploring all of that stuff down the road. So, wow. Oh, and people are talking about price. All that will be in that email. All the official information there. Whew. Let's go ahead and dive into some questions, shall we? So I don't really know where to tell or where to start. It looks like we have some super chats, so I'm going to address those. Then I'm going to scroll to the bottom and we'll get into the questions. So where did I see that first one? Of course, the one and only Alex Miner, $9.99, first bribe of the night. As always, Alex, thank you for your overly kindness and generosity, and for being there. Man, such a solid dude. All right, we also have Charlie here, $5. Quick question. What do you use to show people's questions for the YouTube chat? Is it in OBS? So no, I am using Ecamm Live. I got to remember to add that to the description, but that's the software I'm using. It allows me to add people's comments to the live stream, as well as a bunch of stuff. So the beginning of the show where all the music showed up and whatnot, all of that's automated. I just hit one button and it plays through all the pre-show stuff, and you can have it automatically switch audio sources. It's really, really powerful. So Ecamm, Ecamm, and it's Mac only, I believe. So that's that. Mr. Matt Gray, $20 donation. Just happy I caught the live stream today. Thank you so much, Matt. Matt is a fantastic human being, wonderful guy, and he's been, I feel like Matt's been along for the ride for quite some time here on the channel, so it's good to see you. Okay. Whew, let's get into some questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them down, and I will start somewhere in here. Just signed up for the list. Nice. Anthony, any plans for the Mini Extreme Edition? Yes, that's a little more tricky because of the size, right? So My goal at this point is to develop more of a DIY kit where you get the parts. It just drops right into a 1400 case from Pelican. Then you can modify from there. So that's kind of going to be the next thing. This is going to be more affordable. It lets you customize it. Whereas this is you're done. You put your Atem in it and you have everything you need. The Extreme, I do want to do one as well. I just need to figure out, how to tightly and securely mount that thing in a Pelican case without having to have a ton of machining and all that stuff. Let's see. What do I think about that Mac Mini 1, M1, excuse me. I haven't tried one. I've wanted one for this space for live streaming because they're quiet and they're powerful, but I can't really speak to any of that because I haven't actually used one. Thank you, Avenger or Average Consumer. Nice. Have you tried the Sony A7 IV? No, I pre-ordered the second I could on B&H, but it still hasn't arrived. I might be getting a rental version through, Sony or something to try and get some content out. But as it stands, still haven't played with one. But I can't wait because I think that camera is going to be really, really good. For filming fitness on YouTube, would you suggest filming and editing in 4K 30 or 1080 60? Depends on what you want to do. If you want to, let's see. I mean, if you go 1080, if you're doing long form stuff, 1080 is going to save you such a headache. It's going to be easier to edit, less storage. So if you're just getting started out and you're just trying to make sure you get content done, I would suggest 1080. You can always switch up to 4K. How are you mixing your audio? Sounds nice and clear. This microphone, which by the way, everything I use for the stream setup here is in the description, goes into a DBX 286S. That does a little bit of noise because my MacBook is over here screaming because it's not an M1 chip or M1X Pro, whatever it is. And then it goes into the Atem Mini so that it's linked up with visuals. And then that goes, through over USB-C into my machine. What is your top camera monitor video coming out? Oh, when is the video coming out? So here's the deal. I was going to release, a bunch of stuff changed. I had the chance to review the DJI Ronin 4D. That was this week that it came out, that video. Next week I was going to do it, but there's going to be a light that is released. So we're going to review that next week. Amazing, by the way, so don't miss that. If you're looking for a budget light that is bright and really good, check that out. It's going to be good. So that's next Tuesday. Then it's pretty much Christmas time. So I figured I'd wait until the second week in January. Then that massive review will come out with, I think we're up to 12 to 14 monitors. So it's going to be interesting. And I wanted to do more monitors because this stuff keeps going out of stock, which is just so sad. I hate to be like, hey, everyone, check this out. Oh, just kidding. It's gone. I am looking to create a feature film soon. Nice. I'm asking what DSLR camera you recommend for filmmaking and advice on starting with Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects. Let me know what kind of stuff you're looking to film. There's a lot of options these days. You might be looking more mirrorless these days because there's a lot of good solutions there. So yeah, I would say probably Sony or Canon is going to be what you're going to be looking at. And as for Adobe Premiere and After Effects, I'm a Final Cut guy, so I can't speak to that. But there's a lot of great resources out there. What's the guy? Someone help me out in the chat. What's his name? I think it starts with a C. He's like the After Effects guy. Let me know, and then Jordan can check that out in the chat. Do you know if the A7R 4K 60 crop is only 10-bit? I don't really dig the A7R 4 just because I want that full frame magic, and for the most part, whenever you use those A7R cameras, you are mainly you're gonna lose some of that full frame magic. There's going to be some compromises there. All right. Do you know if the we did that, right? Any tips for grading, shooting C-Log 3 versus C-Log? Just upgraded from my R to R6, and it's taking some getting used to. So I would start by getting the official Canon LUTs. That's always what I recommend, is before you start trying to find random LUTs online, go ahead and hunt down, the official LUTs from Canon. That might be a good question for Jem Schofield on that stream that I'm going to be doing after this one, because he is very well versed in all the log profiles from Canon. If you really like what you've been able to do with C-Log, you can convert C-Log 3 to C-Log. At least I believe you can, or you could use LUT Calc. It's a free tool online, and you could convert it to what you're used to. That would be a good way to go too. Question got cut off. How do you handle main camera in a second camera? Let's say, okay, right. So the video that is linked to in the description talks about all of that, but pretty much this camera, and whoops, that didn't work. And this display right here is all fed into my Atem Mini, and then I can switch back and forth. So that's how I'm achieving that, is the Atem Mini. And then there's kind of a hack you can do where you can turn a monitor into a source so that whatever's on that monitor, that camera or that computer monitor, gets fed into the Atem Mini. And that's all that's documented in that video in the description. All right. Okay. Can we get some sneak peeks as to the monitors? Any chance you can spoil your top picks? Honestly, the all 12 monitors are top picks. I spent multiple thousands of dollars on just a ton of monitors. I went through, created a huge spreadsheet of all the features, selected the ones that made the most sense for what they cost, purchased them, and then of those that got purchased, I selected 12. And honestly, any of those 12 are great monitors. So it's just a matter of what you are looking for, because what's hilariously enough, most of them don't all cross over. So, I mean, honestly, most monitors, not all though, from Feel World and Andy Cine, as well as some other brands, are pretty good. But there's a couple that really stand out. So I don't know the models off the top of my head. So yeah, you'll have to stay tuned for that video. Or, you know, maybe next stream I'll try to have one or two ready for us so we can take a look at it. That'd be kind of fun. Where do we sign up for the mailing list? DSLRvideoshooter.com. On the top right, you'll see a tab that says something something coming Atem Mini, and then you'll find more information there. Thank you, Manny. Appreciate that comment. That's very kind. Oh, a 7.4. Shoot. I don't know where that comment was before. Do you use flags? Oh, this is a good question. Flags, cards, or blackboards for negative light overflow, DIY or buy? Dan, that's a good question. So if the ultimate negative, when you're talking about negative fill, is something that is not only black and blocks light, but actually sucks up light. So my jacket here, or my hoodie, it's gray, but you get the idea. If I point toward the light here, it eats light, even though it's not even black, but it just soaks it up. Whereas I have something like this coffee mug, it's reflective. So it's black, but it's not really going to be a good negative because it will still reflect, has some reflectance to it. So foam board is cheap, but it will reflect some kind of light back. One of my favorite things to do is fabric. Really thick fabric is good. Where am I going here? Sound blankets. I use that. So I've talked about it on the channel. I've got giant rolling sound blankets, white on one side, black on the other. Those are really good. And then one of my favorites is just buying a ton of duvetine. So you can look that up online. It's a fire resistant black fabric, and the good stuff, and you can find reviews to make sure you get the good stuff, completely blocks light. So no light can go through it, and it just soaks up light. It's like a light sponge. So really, really good stuff. That's what I recommend doing, is just buy a ton of duvetine. You can cut it into different sizes. You can clip it to things. Really, really good stuff. It's a great question. All right, what do we got? Okay, here's a good question. Do switch at all? Do switch at all? Long GOP or all eye? So the difference between those two, if at all possible, go all eye. That means in post-production, when you edit, it'll be smooth. The Ronin 4D I reviewed, that is unusable footage in post-production. The footage looked great, but you couldn't play it back or edit it, at least on my machine. So I had to transcode it. Whereas if you go with all I, usually the data rate's higher, but or the files are larger, but you can edit them without having to transcode. So that's the big difference without getting into the nerdy stuff. Base model M1 Mac Mini, phenomenal, especially with Ecamm. Nice. And I love Ecamm because they're constantly updating. Every week when I open this software, there's an update. They're constantly working on the streaming software. If you crop a video to cinematic ratio of 1.8 to 1, 1.851, and viewed in 16:9, do you apply the rule of thirds composition to the 16:9 or the 8:9? Well, that's a good question. You apply it to the your final aspect ratio. So that's what I would recommend, because if you want something to be in the upper left quadrant, when you do that in 16:9, it's going to be off. So that's kind of what you want to be looking for. And having a monitor that can do that for you, and if you know you're going to have a letterboxing situation or D-squeeze, having that in your monitor tools is great, because then you don't get in trouble when you sit down to edit. Which DSLR do you suggest for beginners under $1,500? Okay, so current recommendations on the budget end for the entire, if you're spending exactly $1,500, there's kind of a weird gap there, but I would say Canon and Sony wise, this camera isn't bad if you're okay with less cinema features, but the Canon RP full frame, around that price, or $1,000. The A6400 or A6600 from Sony, also really good. Not wild about the 8-bit, but I may have a solution for that in the future. So that's probably what I would say. Those are really solid. Or Panasonic if you don't care about autofocus. Or the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. The 6K isn't that cheap yet, is it? But the 4K is. So yeah, thank you, Fabio. And Full Circle Design LLC Super Chat, $5. Looking for Resolve color grading course. Got the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 6K Pro, and I'm currently working in Premiere Pro. Okay, help me out, folks. Why do I always completely space out? There's a guy who makes incredible Resolve tutorials. There's several, but there's one that I'm thinking of. Let's look it up real quick, shall we? Let's do a quick detour because his videos are phenomenal, just about color in general. So I'm going to go to YouTube, and he did a video, is like Stranger Things. Wow, I spelled that terribly. This guy, Avery Peck. This guy is nuts if you're really into Resolve. So he's got a lot of good content I would recommend checking out. I don't know if he's done full courses, but he's a really young guy, but he's incredibly talented. So Avery Peck. And then there's a whole bunch of people I can't think of right now that I'm sure someone in the chat can help out with. So let me know, guys, in the chat if there's somebody when it comes to Resolve tutorials. Otherwise, thank you for the donation. But yeah, Avery Peck, really, really good. He does a great job explaining things, which I appreciate. Would you recommend recommendation for affordable camera for filming music videos at home? It's most important. Oh, is the most important thing autofocus or something else? It all depends. Everyone has different preferences, so I would create a list of your most important things. Is it dynamic range? Is it low light? Are you going to have any lights? Is it autofocus? So you don't have to worry about that. Is it stabilization? Is it lens options? Full frame, not full frame. Those are all things to balance. In general, these days, Sony, Canon are kind of the top dogs when it comes to well-rounded, especially when you're talking autofocus. Yeah. Good question, Kristen. Let's see. Scrolling down here, which editing software are you using? I am using Final Cut for everything. Is the FX3 good for vlogging? I don't see why not. It's got a flip out screen, right? People are talking M1. Any thoughts on a mic to get sound for ASMR videos of cooking? Well, you want to make sure it's moisture resistant, because you're going to be, subjecting that microphone to potential splatters, and that can damage a lot of microphones. The one that comes to mind that I can think of off the top of my head is the Deity S Mic 2. I believe that is waterproof and really rugged, so you could get it dirty and have to clean it and whatnot. Is it waterproof? Am I just completely making that up? But yeah, another one I would recommend playing with is a stereo microphone, because when you're doing ASMR, you want to feel like you're there, right? So a stereo microphone that has two, mics, I believe Rode and Sennheiser and others make them, that completely changes the game when it comes to ASMR. So I might check that out. Not that I'm a big ASMR guy, but just thinking about it, if you're trying to get a very immersive experience, try a stereo microphone. What percentage of total budget allocated towards camera body? I mean, it depends on what you already have. But when it comes to your full kit, like if you're starting from scratch, you need to buy stands, lights, camera, lenses. Depending on the size of your budget, I mean, it could be anywhere, but I would recommend it be no more than, let's say, 50%. How about that? Preferably more like 25%. What are you using to mount your camera over the work table? It is a nightmare looking situation up here, or at least it's fairly complex just because of where I'm trying to get the camera. But for the most of the rigging here, it's a C-stand with a grip arm. And what is exactly there? Oh yeah, and then a spigot and a ball head. So C-stand that has an arm, and a spigot, which goes into the grip head that's attached to the arm, and a ball head. Andrew Kramer, yes. So it looks like I am really far behind. So I'm going to bounce down. If I missed your comment, please repost. In the meantime, super chat from Nicholas. Hey Caleb, I recently bought S5 and in the market for some L glass. Any recommendations for an indie filmmaker who's pretty serious about photography? Okay. I mean, one thing I'm not wild about the L mount or the L Alliance is autofocus when it comes to video is not really there. So I wouldn't spend myself personally, I wouldn't put a ton of money into that. But you could get an adapter, L to EF, then get an EF lens that'll work on any camera. So that'd probably be what I would do. Now, if Panasonic starts making amazing cameras with autofocus, or more amazing cameras with autofocus, that would change. But I do have their 24 to 105 f4, really nice zoom all arounder. So it depends on your budget, but their zooms are pretty good. Or just play it safe and go Sigma. You can get their L mounts. Sigma makes great glass. Or again, I still feel the wise move, unless you're married to S5 like cameras or cameras with an L mount, I would still recommend getting the adapter, $100 or so, and then you get Sigma or any Canon lens. That's what I use personally for my main set on the channel. Is a Canon 24 to 70 f2.8, the L lens, the Mark II or 3, whatever it is, and then I use that adapter, and love it. Okay, scrolling back down. Let's see. Let's catch up all the way at the bottom. So I'm jumping down. And we're starting right. Holy cow, you guys are moving quick. Oh boy. Ref room question. Can you please show us the wiring for the teleprompter connection to get Ecamm onto the prompter? All those diagrams are in a video in the description. So you can see all that in all of its glory. There's also a blog post on that YouTube page and whatnot. Okay. Andrew says Sigma 24 to 70 L mount, life changer, excellent, good to know. What wireless earbuds are you using? These are the Apple AirPod Pros, the old ones, or there's a new one now, I guess. What are you shooting? What? Oh, okay. You're answering that question. Any good ways to harden LED light panel? Any ways to harden LED panel light shadows without losing too much output? Well, that's a good question. There's really not a lot of good ways, because LED panels are tricky to get hard light out of because they're a larger source, right? It's not like you have a spot point that you can do things with. So, I mean, mirrors, you can do some crazy stuff with. Harden LED panel output. You're like getting like a harder edge. Is that what you're talking about? In that case, you can forget barn doors and just make your own barn doors. So take some black foam board and change the distance. So, for example, that shadow from if I have my hand right here versus here is going to change. So use that, put it on a stand, clamp it to a stand, and move it around. And that's how you can kind of get harder shadows, if that's what you're kind of looking for, I think. All right. This is Talmage. Looking to make a portable video podcasting kit. What audio recorder would you use that can plug into the Atem Mini, provide phantom power, and works well with the Shure SM7B? That's a tall order on that last one. If you can go into the Atem Mini, I would imagine one of the recent Zoom or Tascam recorders should work. If you needed to, you could get a cloud lifter or, oh man, what's the other one that is out there? Those little inline XLR dealios. But I would say that's probably your best bet. Or you could get an audio interface that has outputs, that has a good preamp in it. But I haven't tested stuff recently, so I don't know if I could help you there. But yeah, the Shure SM7B, that's going to be the real question mark when it comes to getting that level. But if you get a normal recorder, you could work around that with some kind of lifter. Speculation on Blackmagic's next camera. They seem not to be interested in full frame or AF. Maybe Ursa G3. I have no idea. No clue. I hope it's something boxy and not super wide. Does the Ninja 5 improve image quality in the A7 III? Not really. You get 422 instead of 420, but that's a wash. I don't think it's really worth it for all the bulk that you would be getting. So yeah, image quality on its own, not really. In your opinion, does the P60C brightness compare to Nanlite Mix Panel 150? The Nanlite can soften straight from the panel. So concern for the P60C with diffusers will make it too dim. Excuse me. I don't know that light, the the Mix Panel 150. I do know that the P60C is brighter, is 65% the output of Aperture's P300C. So it's really bright. So yeah, if you feel more comfortable with that, with the Nanlite, so you can soften it as needed or harden it or have it as a hard source, then definitely go with that. Nanlite Mix Panel 150. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that fixture. But yeah, output and color can soften straight from the panel. Yeah, long story short, I wouldn't worry about diffusion knocking the P60 down too much, unless you're trying to hit, a stadium wall or something like that. I use the softbox and it doesn't knock it down too much. Went through them, couldn't figure it out. Shoot me an email, ref, and we'll figure it out. Can I come on the show and talk about deinterlacing? Don't want to start a channel, but would love to give my interlace. Wow, okay. Man, those are dark times. Remember those days? Interlace versus progressive. Probably then. It looks like you guys are taking care of each other. I love it. Oh boy, here we go with this. Kurt, Vyzen 6-in-1 desk mount arm or 5-in-1 rolling stand version to do a rolling stand version like your stand video. Honestly, whichever, I think watching those videos I've done, and I know it's confusing because I've made so many and they're all slightly different, just find whatever works for you. There's so many solutions. There's another one coming out next year that's ridiculous. That's in the works now with another company, so it's just going to keep evolving. But yeah, It's whatever is going to work for you. Desk versus a single stand. Desk gives you more options because, you know, it's a larger space, but it takes up more room. So, yeah, it's going to completely depend on you and your shooting scenario. I record live concerts with multiple mirrorless cameras. What do you think is the best way to get around record limits? Buy a Ninja 5 for each camera. Is there a cheaper way? If you have record limits and the cameras won't fall asleep or power down, yes, some kind of video recorder is going to be your best option. Probably a Ninja 5, unfortunately. There are ways to record to like a laptop. There's more affordable recorders out there, but that's probably the most reliable, most budget-friendly until maybe Atem gives us that Ninja Star. Remember the Ninja Star is a little box, no display, great battery life, and it could record. And that would it'd be amazing if they came out with a new one. But yeah, probably gonna be your best bet there. The multiple monitor review video in the next couple weeks, probably it's going, or I take that back. It's going to be January, early January for the mega monitor comparison video. Looking into gold mount battery onto a camera rig for cheap. Does anyone make a gold mount bracket without any circuitry? Exists for V mount, but not gold mount. That's a good question. I stick with V mount. Not because I think it's better. I actually think it's worse when it comes to the connection of the battery. There's just so many V-mount options, so I'm already kind of in that system. But I'm not familiar with gold as well and the plates that are available. Check wooden camera. If they don't have it, then yikes, maybe not. D-Tech Logic. I'm going to give my GH5 to my daughter. Now I need to get a new camera. Any recommendations? I'm planning on to get the R to save some money. If you're coming from the GH5 and you're going to the EOS R, yeah, be ready to maybe change your mind. Having had both, or actually currently own them, the R has its pros and cons. If you like the Panasonic-ness of your GH5, maybe look into an S1, buying a used S1, Panasonic S1. I think you might be pretty happy. It's like a full-frame GH5. Yeah. What headphones or studio monitors do you like to edit video with? I used to use monitors. Now I just use headphones when I need to, and I use the Sony MDR 7506 cans and like them. What is your recommendation for automated motorized camera slider? I did a review a while back on the Rhino Arc 2. Love it. Still use it. Big fan. Mix Pre 3 Mark II works great with the cloud lifter. Okay, good to know, Clay. And there's a great video some guy did talking about whether or not you need one of those. Super fascinating. If I can hunt it down, I'll share it. But often you don't. And I would imagine with a Mix Pre, you shouldn't need a cloud lifter. Just with your preamp. And it'll sound just the same or better than a cloud lifter. How long does it take for me to become halfway decent if I'm consistent? I'm a newbie video. Yeah, that's going to depend on you, this kind of stuff you shoot. That's an impossible question for me to answer. How long it'll take for you to become halfway decent if you're consistent. Yeah, I would just shoot as much as you can. Film everything and edit everything. And that's what's going to take. Fethead, that's the other one. Yeah, Baron. Zoom F6 recorder, cool. People are hooking us up with info. Love it. What time are we at here? 4:41. Ever use Phantom LUTs? What do you think of them? Brazil, love your videos, man, especially the budget gear. Nice. Happy to help, Bruno. I've not used them, and I've not really purchased many LUTs. I have purchased LUTs in the past, but I got so sick of, trying to find them and buying them, and finally just decided to make my own. That said, the number one of the comments I get the most when people are asking about the LUTs that I sell on my site is, have you tried the Phantom LUTs? So maybe I should, because I mean, after doing more research, it seems like that's like the number one. So I'm so glad there's good ones out there. But yeah, I didn't really do a lot of research when I made the pack that I made. I just kind of was like, forget it. I want this with this feature. And so I just made them. But yeah, I've heard a lot of good things, so I'm sure they're awesome. People are okay, interesting. 200X or 200D with gels. It's going to come down to output. What's more important, being able to turn a dial, change the temp, or just have raw output? In which case, the 200D is what you want. I hate gels. I mean, I don't use them that often, so 200D is probably what I would go with. So yeah. The software for live streaming is Ecamm Live. Man, I should just get them to sponsor the show at this point. I'm selling their product like you wouldn't believe over here, or at least talking about it a lot, because it is amazing. It's really good. What spec iMac are you using to edit? I use a MacBook Pro. It's a Intel, I think it's the late 2019 Intel 16-inch fully loaded at the time. Well, not fully, because I'm not spending $3,000 in RAM, but you get the idea. All right, what do we got? Would you use a TV screen as a backdrop for B-roll? I've seen people do it. It looks cool. You could totally do that. I've not personally tried it, but I've seen, or no, I take it back. I have tried it. But it's tricky because you need a huge TV to make it work. And the way I like to light and have depth, that's tricky, right? So projector might be a better option, and the video on that's coming next year. Or if you want to see what that kind of thing looks like, check out my last video, because it was all projected backgrounds for the Ronin 4D review. All right, boys and girls, I've got 1 minute. 1 minute, and then I'm hopping over to the next stream. I'll drop the link to that here in a second. First, we have a super chat from Camille coming in with €5. My teleprompter affects the image quality of my camera. Ooh. Teleprompter is used as a monitor for eye contact. Do you have a tip? It depends on what kind of artifacting you're getting. So maybe shoot me an email. Go to my website, dslrvideoshooter.com/contact. Shoot me an email. Let me know what you're seeing. That's a problem, but that is a factor, right? You're shooting through glass, and if it's poor quality glass, there might be some issues. Okay, boys and girls, that is going to do it for me. I'm going to drop a link to the next up. We got good questions here. Man, I'm so sorry, but we'll be here next week. I'm pretty sure that we'll be here next week doing another stream. So, we're going to be headed over to the C47 for another live stream directly after this. So if you still have questions, please join us over there. It'll be a good time, and we can continue talking about gear, filmmaking, and all that stuff. Wow, I've lost all of my windows. There we go. So here comes the link. It's in the chat. That's going to wrap up this episode. For those of you who drop questions and donations, thank you guys so much. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. I really, really enjoy this, and I hope to keep doing this as many times as I can each Wednesday. So next Tuesday, we got an LED light review. Next Wednesday, I should be doing another stream here. And right after this show, or in 15 minutes or less, we're going to start up another stream over at the C47, which is in the chat there. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a lovely evening if I don't see you, and we'll see you in the next video or stream.